Good morning, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. This is Rich again, back for your first video blog of the day for Friday, April 17th, 2015, around 6:05 in the morning, Belleville, Massachusetts. It's going to be a cloudy day out. Maybe some rain showers, highs in the mid-60s. Some news to report in Game 1 of Stanley Cup playoffs. The New York Rangers, the Detroit Red Wings, Minnesota Wild, and Anaheim Ducks won Game 1 of their series, and they're up 1-0. Game 2 tonight of 4 other series, the Senators and Canadiens, Islanders, Capitals, Blackhawks, Predators, and Flames versus Canucks continue tonight. And also the Red Sox head off, and Chicago Cubs have recalled outfielder Chris Bryant from the minor leagues, the AAA affiliate in Iowa. Chris hit about 9 home runs in spring training. This is good news because I think Chris is going to be the next big superstar in baseball. And that's about it on the news. My first video subject of the day is my review on WCW Spring Stampede 1994, which happened at the Rosemont Horizon in Chicago, Illinois. It happened 21 years ago today. Spring Stampede was one of the best pay-per-views in WCW history, and it was in the middle of 3 awesome pay-per-views that WCW put out. A lot of wrestling experts says that the 3 pay-per-views that WCW put out back in a row, Super Brawl 4, Spring Stampede 1994, and Slamboree were the best 3 pay-per-views back to back that any wrestling company has ever put on, and I agree with them. And the calling the Spring Stampede 1994 were Tony Schiavone and Bobby the Brain Heenan. And the dark matches that happened at Spring Stampede 1994 was 2 of them. It was actor Danny Bonaducci of Partridge Family fame, wrestling Christopher Knight, who was Peter Brady on the Brady Bunch. Danny Bonaducci won this match. It wasn't on the pay-per-view, but what I heard about it, it was just a comedy match. And the second match was Kevin and Dave Sullivan, or Evad Sullivan. They defeated Haitu and Pat Tanaka. They were like the Orient Express. Hatu was actually Paul Diamond, but he went by the name of Kato in WWE as the masked wrestler from the Orient Express. They couldn't use the Orient Express name because somehow the WWE trademarked that, and they also trademarked Kato. And here are the matches that happened on pay-per-view. There was one match that was scheduled but didn't happen. It was the Z-Man Tom Zink against Terrorizing. You know, Terrorizing eventually became Triple H, but that match never took place on the pay-per-view. It was substituted with this match. It was Diamond Dallas Page with the Diamond Doll facing off against Johnny B. Bad. This match was about 6 minutes. Johnny B. Bad beat Diamond Dallas Page with the Sunset Flip. It was a decent opener. DDP was still developing his character. He was like kind of a lower mid-card. Johnny B. Bad was, stuck in mid-card mediocrity in WCW for several years. And the next match was for the WCW TV title. It was Flying Brian Pillman, the challenger, against Lord Steven Regal with Sir William in his corner. Sir William's Bill Dundee, and it had a 15-minute time limit match. Another solid match between Regal. When he was a television champion, Regal had great matches and stuff like that. He was probably an underrated TV champion, probably one of the best ever. The match ends in a 15-minute time limit draw when Pillman suplexes Regal into the ring. Time limit expires. Match ends in a draw. Lord Steven Regal retains the TV title because of a title does not change hands in a draw. So Regal retains the title. Another great match, solid match. The next match was a Chicago street fight between the WCW Tag Team Champions Nasty Boys, Brian Knobbs and Jerry Sags, against Cactus Jack and Max Payne. The WCW Tag Team titles were not on the line on this match, and this was a very awesome brawl, fought all over the ring, outside the ring. The ending of the match had Sags hit Cactus Jack with a shovel and pinned him 1, 2, 3. And then after the match, they continue to brawl, and Knobbs hits Max Payne with a shovel, and Max Payne gets knocked out cold. Like the Cactus Jack, Max Payne, and the Nasty Boys had a great feud through the first few months of 1994. They had some great matches. It was a solid tag team feud and stuff like that. Nasty Boys are probably one of the greatest WCW tag team champions of all time, and probably an underrated tag team. You should have seen some of these matches with the Nasty Boys. They are good workers, in my opinion, and stuff like that. The next match was for the U.S. Championship. It was Stunning Steve Austin with his manager Colonel Robert Parker against the Great Muta from Japan, and the U.S. title was on the line. It was about 16-minute match and stuff, back and forth match. The ending of the match had the Great Muta throw Stunning Steve Austin over the top rope, and before he threw him over the top rope, the Great Muta kicked Colonel Rob Parker. In WCW, if a wrestler was thrown over the top rope, unless it was momentum, it was an automatic disqualification, and Stunning Steve Austin retained the U.S. title. This was an awesome match, probably a solid 16-minute match. The way it was, Stunning Steve was a very great U.S. champion, and he was a solid mid-carder in WCW. There was rumors in 1994 that Stunning Steve Austin was going to be the WCW World Title champion, and even Ric Flair, who was the booker at the time, says he had no problem dropping the WCW title to Stunning Steve Austin, but that never happened. And the next match was for the WCW International title. They had the big gold belt that used to be the NWA World title that was synonymous with Ric Flair. That belt was made from 1986. When they updated the NWA belt, the WCW succeeded from the NWA for good in September 1993, and they did not tell the NWA that Rick Rude was going to be the next champion. But they owned the belt, so they renamed that belt at first the big gold belt, but they called it the International title. It was Ravishing Rick Rude was the champion then. Ravishing Rick Rude defended his WCW International title against Sting, and before the match, when Rick Rude was being interviewed, Harley Race, who was the manager of Vader at the time, issued a challenge to either Vader or Ravishing Rick Rude or Sting for the international title, and Rick Rude was mad that Harley Race interrupted his interview time, and this was a solid back and forth match between Sting and Ravishing Rick Rude. They had a long running feud in WCW, which was kind of an underrated feud in 1992 over the US title and 1994 over the international title. Interference by Vader and Harley Race. The ending of the match had Race accidentally hit Ravishing Rick Rude with a chair after Rude was going for the Rude Awakening, and Sting beats him 1, 2, 3, and Sting's the new international champion. And after the match, Rick Rude goes into the locker room, and him and Vader get into an argument and stuff like that, and they had to be pulled apart by several of the heel wrestlers and stuff like that. The plan was for Slamboree 1994 was going to be Ravishing Rick Rude versus Vader, and Rick Rude was going to turn face, but I could never imagine Rick Rude as a face, period, and stuff like that. If Rick Rude was healthy, I think they should have had both Rick Rude and Vader wrestle as heels, and maybe have Harley Race turn on Vader and side with Ravishing Rick Rude, and he could make Vader a face, but you know that never happened because Rick Rude suffered a career-ending injury against Sting in Japan a couple of weeks later, so we'll never know what would have happened. The next match was a bunkhouse match between Bunkhouse Buck with Colonel Robert Parker against an actual Dustin Rhodes. This was a solid, like, 15-minute match. The ending of the match had Bunkhouse Buck beat Dustin Rhodes with a foreign object. It was a great match and stuff like that. The next match was Vader with Harley Race against the Boss, and the Boss was the Big Boss Man, and this was a solid match, about 10 minutes. Vader wins with the Vader Bomb. Afterwards, the Boss goes crazy. He goes absolutely nuts, attacking Vader and attacking Harley Race. And then WCW Commissioner comes in, who was Nick Bockwinkel at the time. He escorts the Boss out, and in an interview segment, Nick Bockwinkel takes the nightstick, the handcuffs away, and he tells the Boss he's no longer the Boss. That's what Nick Bockwinkel said. But in actuality, WWE sent threats to WCW saying the Boss's character was similar to the Big Boss Man character in WWE. It was infringement character infringements, and WWE was going to sue WCW, so they had to changed the Boss gimmick for Will Trailer, who became eventually the Guardian Angel and Big Bubba Rogers. But that's another story for another day. That's another great match. And the main event was for the WCW World title. It was Nature Boy Ric Flair against Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and this was a 32-minute match classic. Steamboat and Flair always have classic matches. It was the best WCW feud of all time, and probably some of the greatest matches you'll ever see. If I was ever stuck on an island and it was the only wrestling matches I could watch, it would be probably Flair and Steamboat. And they were so awesome, these matches. Over 30 minutes of back and forth action. They were kind of hyping it up. Bobby the Brain Heenan and Tony Schiavone on commentary that there was rumors that Hulk Hogan was going to come to the Rosemont Horizon and interfere in this match because, you know, on television, on WCW Saturday Night in the syndicated programs, they were showing Hulk Hogan filming in Thunder in Paradise and MGM Studios in Orlando, Florida. That's where they had the TV tapings for WCW Worldwide and Pro. But like they were just typing up because Hogan and WCW were still negotiating on contract. And then the ending of the match between Flair and Steamboat, like Steamboat had the double chicken wing on Flair, and then when they went to the pin combination, Nick Patrick pins 1, 2, 3. People thought Steamboat was the WCW World Champion. He won it again, but Nick Patrick ruled that both wrestlers' shoulders were on the ground, meaning the match was declared a draw, and then WCW champion, WCW Commissioner Nick Bockwinkel gave Ric Flair back the WCW World title because saying that if it's a draw, titles cannot change hands. And this finish was kind of a little bit bullshit, but it was a very classic match. They should have had Steamboat go over Flair in this match, win the WCW World title. The ending was so bullshit, having a draw when both wrestlers were like pinned 1, 2, 3. I don't know what was the original finish, was it? But they should have had Steamboat go over Flair, and maybe Flair went back to WCW World title a couple of weeks later and stuff like that. What did I think about this pay-per-view? It was probably the best pay-per-view WCW has ever put on, with the Flair Steamboat 32-minute match, plus a lot of solid matches, especially Steve Austin against the Great Muta, the Nasty Boys against Cactus Jack and Max Payne, and also the Sting versus Ravishing LaGroove for the international title. The TV title was pretty good. The only match that kind of didn't fit in was Johnny B. Bad against DDP, but you need to, sometimes pay-per-views, you need to have some like warm-up matches and stuff like that. Not all pay-per-views are going to be solid top to bottom. And that's about it on this video blog. And I'll be back later, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter for 2 more video vlogs. One will be about 15 years ago today. Chris Jericho beating Triple H for the WWE World title on Monday Night Raw, but only had the decision reversed 15 minutes later. And the third and final video blog of the night will be about Hockey Hall of Fame defenseman Scott Stevens, longtime captain of the New Jersey Devils. Have a good day, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.